Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well because the project I've been working on for more than 3 years now, stillOS, is finally out publicly. Well, it already has been out publicly, but it's out of preview now. So I just wanted to make a quick video promoting it and have you guys go check it out. So what I'm trying to do here is make the first Linux distribution that is fully consumer ready out of the box. Something you could go to Best Buy if it was running on a computer, open it up, set and forget, and not have to worry about. So yeah, pretty ambitious project. But like I said, I've been working on it for 3 years, so I do think I've finally achieved that. Now let's just go to the release notes that I just finished writing. So first off, we're actually using Alma Linux 10 as a base. Technically Alma Linux 10.1, but doesn't matter. Alma Linux is a community rebuild of Red Hat, and if you don't know what Red Hat is, because it isn't really a common distro you'll see in like community use. And if I just Google what is Red Hat Linux known for and get the Google answer, it is the leading commercial Linux distribution for enterprise environments, offering extreme stability, robust security, and widespread support for hybrid cloud infrastructure, which I don't care about that. And you don't typically see Red Hat Enterprise Linux specifically just because it is a paid commercial Linux distribution. But Alma Linux is a community rebuild of it. And the reason I'm basing it off of Alma Linux is I just wanted a really stable base that I wouldn't have to worry about. I could have used Debian, but Alma Linux also has its Atomic Special Interest Group. And this is a group of people that I am actually a part of, but we're working on bringing Atomic technology to the Alma Linux community. So with that, stillOS actually uses something called bootc, and this lets you make a bootable container essentially. So the way updates get distributed is kind of like a Docker image. We're kind of like an IT team maintaining an operating system, and then provided you're on the latest installation, every single installation of stillOS is going to be identical, so it'll be very easy for us to reproduce bugs. You're not going to have any package manager dependency conflicts or things. With this is a thing of the past. You're kind of able to just install it and it's just going to work, which is part of why I'm partly marketing stillOS as a maintenance-free Linux distro. So a lot of the design goals here is to be a very pragmatic, set it and forget it type Linux distribution, and we want it to be a tool that will respect your time and stay out of the way. And then thanks to this Alma Linux base paired with the Atomic updates, and then updates for both the system and Flatpak are fully automatic in the background, so you can use stillOS without thinking about maintaining it at all. Now, another thing is I believe that Gnome is the closest desktop environment we have to something truly consumer friendly. Now, to be honest, I do not think Gnome as just a desktop environment is actually the best one. I think as just a desktop environment, KDE Plasma is the best. But the reason we're going with Gnome is its app ecosystem. I think having a good app ecosystem is actually more important than the desktop environment itself, especially when Gnome is arguably second place in the best desktop environment. But in terms of the apps, the GNOME shell has its own GNOME human interface guidelines. And so just from having this sort of app ecosystem, GNOME feels like a way more polished, consumer-oriented product compared to something like KDE. And it also gives the stillOS team design principles that we can align with, so we don't have to worry about trying to come up with a whole new design framework when we can just write our stillOS tools with the GNOME interface guidelines in mind. And with that, everything in stillOS is going to feel like a very cohesive user experience. That said, the default layout of GNOME out of the box is way too confusing for new users and has way too much of a learning curve. So we're going with a different user interface out of the box that is going to give you a more Windows style layout, but also with some Mac influence too in how I designed it. And then stillOS has a tool called Still Control, which is going to give you a layout switcher, kind of similar to Zorin OS. And I'm not going to change layouts because our layout switcher does require you to log out and log back in, and I don't want to do that while recording. But once you set a layout, you can then go through and fine-tune everything you want in your layout, and it uses extensions behind the scenes, but the way stillOS does it is it just feels like one coherent tool, so it doesn't feel like you're messing with a hodgepodge of extensions. And then if you do want to install extensions, we have an extension manager built in. All you have to do here is click enable third-party extensions and then go to install, and you can just grab whatever extension you want from the GNOME extensions website. And we do this just to, give some newer users some warnings that third-party extensions may break our customized version of Gnome that stillOS ships. So we're making it convenient for people to do while also still trying to warn them in the meantime for that. Next up, this is the feature I am the most proud of for stillOS because I haven't seen any other Linux distribution try anything like this other than Chrome OS, but that is our SWI Web App Runtime. So I'm a college student, I'm trying to just get my work done a lot of the time, and through that, I've heavily started using web apps in my workflow a lot. Now, I'm not saying we should replace native apps. Native applications, majority of the time, are better, but there are a lot of cases where I am going to be using a web app anyway, and I want the web app experience to just work a lot better. With that, we have the SWI Web App Runtime, so this allows the stillOS team to basically make all these web apps that feel super system integrated. So for example, I am an Apple Music subscriber. I'm not a fan of Spotify, but Apple Music doesn't have a Linux version, so I was basically able to turn the Apple Music web application into a native feeling Linux app with just a YAML file. And as you can see, the title bar adapts to sort of fit into the Apple Music style. And if I go to the web app I have here for Photopea, and this is my preferred alternative to Photoshop because I'm not a huge fan of GIMP, but if I change the theme that Photopea uses to, like, for example, purple, the title bar is actually going to adapt to the app. And then another feature with these SWI apps is that apps in the same ecosystem, so for example the Google Workplace ecosystem, can actually interact with each other. So if I have this blank Word doc right here, okay, I guess it's not working. Okay, what's supposed to happen is I click this and it opens in the Google Docs app, but I guess I might have to push a day one update and fix that, but it worked last week. All right, I'm editing this video right now. It's the next day. I've since fixed this bug. I'm in Google Drive right here. As you can see, double click this Google document. It did open on my second monitor, but boom, opens straight in Google Docs. So super integrated, super good user experience. This is my favorite thing I've built for stillOS. So the idea of that is it's supposed to kind of provide a stopgap for a new Linux user who may go onto the App Store and try and type Microsoft Word, and then boom, they have a convenient web app that is going to wrap around and look like a native system app right there. So this is a feature that I think is really going to get rid of a lot of user friction for people who are newcomers to Linux or might not even know they're running Linux and just want to use their computer. Now, next up is the stillOS Software Center, Still Center. So stillOS ships a very modern stack, including Flatpak, Wayland, and Bootsy, which some legacy apps are not going to support. And then on top of that, right now, Linux has ecosystem fragmentation where Qt apps behave pretty poorly on Gnome, and older GTK3 apps may have some theming issues on the modern Libeleda theme. And then I also just needed a way to integrate all the SWI apps I'm making into a Linux Software Center. So that's why I ended up making Still Center. And if I go to an app like, let's do Visual Studio Code right here, I think the next update I'm going to do is working on the search algorithm. I'm typing Visual Studio Code and it's coming up fourth. So that is something I should work on. Ignoring that, we have a little still rating right here. So this is going to basically have a rating on how well it's going to work on a stillOS system. So this notes is it has a hard-coded theme, which is actually a good thing because that means you aren't going to have any theming issues. But some features may require manual intervention due to Flatpak. So the whole reason we're doing this is if there's a Flatpak issue, a lot of them can be fixed now with things like Flatpak portals. But a lot of applications, for one reason or another, maybe it's a giant corporation making it and Linux users are a small portion of their user base, or it's just a older application. Sometimes things are still broken in Flatpak. So the idea here is you're going to get some sort of awareness about how well it's going to work with the stack stillOS is using. If there are issues, we can sort of shift the blame to the author of the application here so that they can actually go and fix their application instead of people coming over to Linux and being like, Linux sucks because Discord won't add screen sharing. When in reality, the tech has been around for them to add screen sharing. They just haven't gotten around to it. And by the way, Discord does support screen sharing on Wayland now, but that for a long time was a notorious example of something that was breaking because of an application developer wouldn't fix it. And then, as I said earlier, we also have the SWI applications on here too. Now, another thing of note is I'm trying to prevent low quality apps from being installed. So if it doesn't work well at all on stillOS, it's just going to get straight rejected and not listed. And we're also going to be rejecting applications that may be like a basic KDE app or something, like not like a super advanced app like Krita, but like KDE Calendar or something. And no shade on KDE here, but just KDE apps tend to have poor system integration on Gnome. So we don't want new users installing these KDE apps and then having a bad experience and getting mad at stillOS. But if you want one of these apps, you still can install it through the command line. And eventually there will be a sideload tool for Flatpak ref files, app images, even deb and RPMs through DistroBox. Now, speaking of DistroBox, we also have the Still Terminal app right here. And so stillOS is trying to be a maintenance-free Linux distribution, and we don't expect you to have to go into the terminal at all just to do a quick fix or any system maintenance or things like that. So we're trying to make a new terminal emulator that is instead made for doing real work for power users and developers alike. With this, we have built-in container integration. So I already have an Arch and a Ubuntu container, as well as an SSH session for Discourse. But if I click right here, I can make a new one and then make a whole new container for whatever Linux distro. I use Arch, by the way, to set this to Arch. I'm actually going to make this container. I already have an Arch container. But if I click it, as you can see, and this right here is a Linux brew issue. I need to fix that. It's just my bash configuration. But now I am inside a Arch container right here. I can pacman-s whatever. I'm not root. And the container color scheme is actually going to match the distro you're using. So here's an Ubuntu one, put it in dark mode. And you can also, for something like a remote SSH session, you can do things like if you're in a production environment and you can't run destructive commands because you don't want to break anything, you could make the terminal red, and then you can make your non-destructive environment green or blue. So you have a color indication of what environment you're working in, and it makes it a little bit harder to make sloppy mistakes. So I'm pretty excited about Still Terminal 2. And then finally, I can't run this on my main system because this is a first time setup thing, but we also have quick setup. So on the first boot, you're going to get a setup screen where you can do things like select what web browser you want, and just quickly grab any essential applications that you may need to do for your work. And so there were two design goals of quick setup. One, just to get people up and running as fast as possible, because all you need to do is just click all the apps that you want or whatever work you have, and it's going to install in the background after you leave quick setup. And two, for some new users, they might not know what Linux apps have to offer, like what open source apps as well as web apps they have available to get their work done, since they're not able to use desktop Office anymore or desktop Photoshop. So it's supposed to be sort of a guiding guardrail to help power users get up and running really quick and to help guide new users. With that, please go ahead and check this out if you're interested. This is my passion project. I've been working on it forever now. And if you try it out and you have any feedback, you can leave a comment in this video, but you can also just email me at cameron@stillhq.io. I can't promise I'll have the time to respond to every email, but I will be reading every email and iterating on what I have right now for stillOS and taking in feedback and making a better project. And I want this to be the Linux distribution that people are going to be installing on their mom's computer or just handing out whenever, for whatever reason, Windows doesn't work. Like maybe if it's a recycled computer or they don't have a license key or you're giving it away and you just need something that works on there for someone who may not be very technical. I'm hoping that this becomes a go-to OS for that type of use case right here. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.